Xenoblade Chronicles 2, the controversial sequel to a beloved game, a game I'm very conflicted on, and big animated. This was technically my first Xenoblade game. Technically. I, probably like many others, was introduced to this series by Chugga Conroy. I remember seeing the gameplay and thinking it looked cool. I liked the art system and was amazed by him saying in his videos that if you could see it, you could go to it. The open world looked vast. I only watched a couple episodes of it, up until Shulk got the Monado. Not even that many, because I just wanted to see this awesome sword in action. So I skipped some videos. And then Shulk was announced in Smash. I loved using Shulk in Smash with all his Monado arts. He was a fun character to use. And of course I enjoyed his voice lines like Backslash! And Slash! I wanted to play it partly because Chugga said this was his favorite game of all time. And I wanted to see if it would be that good. But it was hard to get the original Wii copies, and I was like 8 or something. I wouldn't know about the upcoming new 3DS port and the Virtual Console port on Wii U. 3 years pass, it's 2017, I see that Xenoblade Chronicles has a sequel on Switch. So I'm like, wow, if Xenoblade Chronicles is this masterpiece, then surely the sequel has to be just as good. So I got it. Because I looked up and sites said that you didn't need to play the first one to understand this one. By the way, I don't recommend this because you'll understand a lot of the callbacks and references from one, and some plot points make greater sense when you play the first. So, I got Xenoblade Chronicles 2. How did I feel that first time playing it? Baffled. Flabbergasted. The game starts, the voice acting of Rex to me was off, and I didn't like his design of this salvager outfit. And then the first battle with the Crucible started. Oh my god, it was so slow. And I'm pretty sure I was half paying attention to the tutorials. We'll get to those later. But even if I did get past the early point of the game, I would have been stuck for a long time on boss fights for skipping those tutorials. I think I remember looking up online if the combat was always like this, but Rex and Gramps landed in Argentum Trade Guild, and I actually liked it. The music, the atmosphere, getting to jump around. Keep in mind, this was probably one of my first exposures to an open world game like this one. Oh god, I remember hating Banna's design. I thought it was the stupidest design ever. It literally got me angry looking at it. I hated all the Nopon designs. I thought they were like a terrible mascot design. Jin, Nia, and Malos are introduced. I'm like, these guys are so cool. I was happy they joined my party and I got to play with them. And I actually liked the section on the Maelstrom. The gang find Pyra and it zooms in on her chest for an awfully long time. And then Rex dies and I celebrated. Nah, but Rex gets nothing personal and dies. But not really, because anime powers, and Pyra brings him back to life using part of her core crystal lifespan something. I also thought this was idiotic, and you know the scream happens, and I was laughing. And of course the cool looking ones leave your party. Gramps dies, but doesn't. Another thing that left me scratching my head. And I also hated his new design too. Now Gormott was beautiful, I love the music, the level 80 enemies just moving about, and you get to Torgoth. Oh my god, this might have been the thing that set me off the most. The Blade Awakening is introduced, and also common blades. The funny part is, I don't even think I was mad at the gacha mechanic because I was just a dumb 11-year-old who didn't understand what a gacha game was. I was mad at the fact the common blades all look the same. Then the Bridget fight comes, and this was so hard for me. I kept dying and dying over and over. Probably because I didn't understand the game mechanics. But I think I did beat her because I remember being so salty that Tora, a playable Nopon, was in the game. Because, you know, I was racist towards Nopon. And Banna left a sour taste in my mouth. I think this was the stopping point, because Tiger was so annoying. Easy mode wasn't a thing yet, so it was incredibly unfair, and Poppy was very just confusing. So I think I just had enough. I was like, why do people like this game so much? And that was my first experience with Xenoblade 2. A far cry to how I feel about it now. So like 3 or 4 years passed, and I learned about Xenoblade on the 3DS, and I get it. I played the beginning, I actually enjoyed it, but took a long break because it was long. And then finished it this year. I thought it was an excellent game, so I was ready for the sequel. Now before we get into the good and bad of this game, let's go over some basic introductory material. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is a 2017 action role-playing game developed by Monolith Soft and published by Nintendo for none other than the Nintendo Switch. It's the third installment in the Xenoblade series, yeah, okay buddy, and the 7th in the mainline Xeno series. It was released on December 1st. Key developers from previous games returned, including franchise creator Tetsuya Takahashi and directors Ko Kojima and Genki Yokota. The team wanted to develop a story-driven game in the style of the original Xenoblade Chronicles. It got a worldwide release date, and like the first game, Nintendo of Europe took the reins to localize it. The gameplay is similar to previous entries, but a lot of little differences here and there. And of course, blades are here too. It has different characters and settings from the first, and returns to being story-driven rather than gameplay-driven in X. Xenoblade 2 takes place in Aures, which is a world covered by a sea of clouds, dubbed the Cloud Sea. Humans live on top of titans. There's also these people called drivers, who can summon blades to fight from crystals. The game received generally positive reviews, being praised for its story, music, and environments, but criticized for its gacha system, maps, and vague tutorials. As of December 2020, it has sold over 2 million copies worldwide, making it the best-selling title in the Xeno series and Monolith Soft's most commercially successful game. It got free and paid DLC with a new story expansion called Torna the Golden Country. But we won't be talking about that paid part of the DLC or Torna because I haven't played it yet, and I'd rather just talk about what comes in the package. With all of that out of the way, we are going to talk about the good and bad parts of this game. And also because this game is very long and really hard to talk about without bringing up spoilers. This video will cover a ton of spoilers throughout, and probably some from 1 too. So if you haven't played this game, my TLDR is that you should, and you should play the first game as well, because they're both amazing. But with that, you have been warned. Good. Story. The story is not perfect. Compared to Xenoblade Chronicles 1, I don't think it reaches that height. Many of the big twists in this game, to me, fell short. Jin as a flesh eater is good, but it's not Mumkar as Metal Face. Numa is a cool power-up, but it doesn't hit the same as the Monado power-ups, and the eventual truth of the Monado and Zanza. Xenoblade 1's twists change the whole story and your perspective, while Xenoblade 2's are just mildly shocking. Xenoblade 2's twists are putting your hand accidentally on the heated stove, while Xenoblade 1's is someone from behind slams your face into the stove. One's going to burn you a little, you might need some ice, maybe you can't ride with it for a couple of days. One is going to send you to the hospital and drastically alter your life forever. The Metal Face twist on Prison Island recontextualizes everything you know, and turns this revenge story into something else. Where Xenoblade 2 shines though is its characters, themes, and ending, which I would say is better than Xenoblade 1's. Characters. Xenoblade 2 got this one in the bag. There's only 5 party members compared to the 7, which gives them a little more time to develop. Rex is this kind-hearted, reckless kid who wants to help and protect his blades. His journey to Elysium is a noble goal, rival to Shulk, who is out for revenge. Rex is a fine protagonist, but I think Shulk has way more development. Pyra and Mithra are alright. I for one feel like in the minority because I like Mythra more. Like once I got her, I was like, she's better than Pyra. Pyra kind of feels like a cardboard cutout, while Mythra has actual emotion, and Mythra is just better in combat. Pyra is designed around fire, yet she has the personality of a bottle of water. And it's not even cold water, it's room temperature water. But I do like the topic of Sai being brought up with them. Nia is legitimately one of the best characters in the series. She's so snarky and her voice actor is amazing.
What the bloody hell is this?
A Welsh cat girl is definitely something I didn't know I needed. But seriously, she's a great character through and through, being one of the most unique and entertaining characters. And well, she's forever faded with the Melia curse. As she gets friend-zoned, but I don't think it's as painful because Rex accepts her for who she is and a part of the group, which is touching. And despite being arguably the worst driver, you can make her better as a blade. Oh, what's that? Are you confused I said Nia's a blade? Yeah, Nia's a flesh eater, and what her arc revolves around. Her hiding her true self, and then accepting it at the end. What I like about it is that it could be an allegory for a multitude of different things, and that players can relate to. Dromark is just kinda there. Tora is a better Riki. He feels a lot more involved in the plot with his grandpa and dad. I love his design as well with his little overalls. Poppy is an amazing character who's an artificial blade, which in of itself is a cool concept. She gets really touching moments near the end that, won't lie, have me actually tearing up. Like the high five and the ending scene with Rex. God. I love how she becomes more human. And her other forms are awesome too, namely Poppy QT Pie, which is one of the best blades. And she's absolutely unhinged grown-up version of Poppy.
What's going on?
Morag is an amazing evasion tank. Evasion tank in and of itself is also just a fun idea. They don't have that much HP, about the same as the main attacker, so how do they tank? They simply just dodge the attacks. I cannot say if Dunban or Morag is better. They both excel in their own areas. Morag has this composed, mature-like personality, which makes sense given that she's the leader of the Ardanian military. But that doesn't mean she gets silly moments. I personally love the cooking heart-to-heart with her.
It's looking at me with those eyes and moving those lips, like it's accusing me of something. It's cursing me for taking its heart. It's no use. I can't torment the dead any further.
Bridget is alright. She, like a lot of the other blades, are distanced from the story. But I thought it was interesting how she keeps a diary to deal with forgetting everything after dying and being reawakened. Zeke, I wish, got more time in the story. Actually, Morag and Zeke, they basically get shoved off to the side in the end. He starts as nothing but a trope character, but he's actually a lot more deeper and smarter than that. He's the Prince of Tantal. He and Morag give me Xenoblade Chronicles 1 vibes, but with their own twists. To me, he's like Shulk. He's treated as a joke a majority of the game, and while he is not the worst driver, he's a worse Rex and on the lower end. I'll talk more about him later in his subversion of his character. Pandoria gets another unfortunate blade treatment. Unfortunately, she doesn't really have any standout design or memorable lines like Dromark or Bridget, so she just exists. I really like all the characters here, and I think their designs are really good. In Xenoblade 1, Shulk, Dunban, Fiora, Melia were the ones that really got the main focus. Charlotte kind of gets some scenes, but a little forgettable. Ryan and Ricky just get sidelined. This has to do with the shorter amount of party members, only 5 instead of 7. Everyone gets some chance to shine, and the cast feels more connected, so while the story isn't as good, it's the characters that make it enjoyable. It's like JoJo Parts 1 through 3, where the plot is okay, but the characters and the interactions just carry. The side characters and villains, on the other hand, are stinky. They are really forgettable to the likes of Metalface, Eagle, Zanza, Dixon. Even Melia's dad had more emotional value than Neo and his fake death. They stole the show and what made Xenoblade what it was. The interactions and downtime with the main cast is what makes Xenoblade 2 good though. Foreshadowing and anime tropes. Foreshadowing, I think, is a key staple of Xenoblade, giving you little hints here and there throughout the game that you wouldn't give a second thought to, once you find out what they mean, give a whole new meaning. For example, when Shulk says, "Inside of me, there are two versions of me." Seems like banter at first, but once you find out that this is foreshadowing Zanza, it just makes you appreciate the line so much more. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is no stranger to foreshadowing. A lot of it comes to Nia instead of Rex because of her being a flesh eater blade. She struggles about the same as Dromark when caught in the Ethernet. At the end of chapter 3 in the fight with Malos and Akos, she can be seen holding her hands at her chest, showing that she may have considered transforming at that time to save Anthem. And another way this game sometimes conveys foreshadowing is via anime tropes. There's your usual hot spring scene, and while it's not my favorite use of the trope, because it still seems tropey, I do like that they use it to foreshadow that Nia is a flesh eater. Another example of anime tropes is that Zeke is shown doing extraordinary feats that seem almost impossible for a normal human. They can be easily written off as anime logic, but in actuality, Zeke is no normal human, and is a blade eater, so these feats are in the realms of possibility. There's a bunch of other foreshadowing that could, in of itself, be a whole nother video. So if you want to see more instances, I recommend looking them up. Combat. Once you get past the vague tutorials and slow pacing of the first few chapters, the combat is actually fun. The battle system is definitely way more complex than the first, due to the sheer number of blades and possibilities that you can have on your party. The only caveat is you have to play a lot of the game for it to truly be good. I would say it only starts getting good when chain attacks and stuff is introduced, which is the start of chapter 3. That's like 15 hours. And you have to play until you get like Numa to finally utilize the elemental orbs to their full capacity. Once you get past all of that, it stops being slow and clunky. So basically, we still have the auto attack as your main foundation. This time, however, you have to stand still for it to continuously attack, not being able to move and attack like Xenoblade 1. You can make this even faster by clicking up on the analog stick when the attack is completed to get an even faster attack. It's like a rhythm game, but I don't think this was intentionally designed. And then you have your arts this time, limited to 3 on a blade, but you'll get the amount that one cast had 3 blades. Granted, you have to do a lot of switching. Instead of talent arts, we have specials, which can range from level 1 to 4, with a variety of effects. And returning from 1, we have Break, Topple, and new to 2, Launch and Smash, which in that order can pulverize the unlock who stepped in your way. And we get into combos. Basically, you can use the Break or Topple together with the specials to get a combo. There's a lot of elements in this game and a lot of combinations. There's a new addition with chain attacks. You can get an overkill after you defeat the enemy in the chain attack, and this XP is no joke. You get some levels off of it. I love how each special has this different animation with this Zack Snyder slow-mo before they're pulled off. And every party member is useful. In 1, Charlotte was really bad. I never wanted to use her. Nia is the only one who falls off, but once you get her as a blade, she's saved. This is a really fun combat system once you get to know it. Locations and worlds. I love the idea of these worlds. It takes the concept of the Mechonis and the Bionis, breaks it apart, and then throws the pieces all over the Cloud Sea. These titans are smaller. You can in some cases see their head and their end. That's just a nice way of saying their ass. The lands on these titans are mesmerizing. And sometimes you won't even be on top of them. You could be inside of them like Urara, which has these beautiful purple trees, or the Lotharian Archipelago. Besides having a cool name, is a vast series of titans that are island-like, showing that Monolith Soft still has creativity to spend. And despite being smaller, that's not a complaint. In fact, I think it works better here for the game. The titans are a joy to explore. It's not a Xenoblade game if one of the first areas you explore has a level 80 enemies pulling up on you.
Okay, I'll pull up.
The worst one in my opinion has to be Moradane, but it's still fun sometimes. The mine elevators and factories and stuff make it very confusing. Not to mention, it's not pleasing to look at with the desert-like look. There's also Tantal, which is an icy wonderland, and homeland to our homie Zeke. So while it's not as cool as like you're on the foot of the Bionis and its knees are blocking the sun, the worlds here are just as expansive and gorgeous. The World Tree in Elysium. This is a bonus to the previous category because, well, these are two mind-blowing locations. I think they just deserve their own. Moithra was already just a surprising location, but these two blow it out of the water. All throughout this game, it's been keeping this kind of more fantastical nature, similar to that of Final Fantasy. There was some technology like Poppy, but what I love is how shocking this twist is. I was thinking when they talked about the World Tree in Elysium, it was just going to be a magical location, and the twist with Elysium was that there was no architect. Boy, was I wrong! The World Tree is this giant futuristic space station. I was stunned. And it should have been evident by the elevator. I had to actually take a few seconds before picking up my controller again, and my jaw, because I was not expecting it. I think these two twists are the greatest in the game. The World Tree is a great final dungeon before you finish the game. It's not overly challenging, and it's fun to go through. The music here is phenomenal. Like, come on, motorcycles as an enemy? But what's even greater than that is you're preparing for Elysium, this place that would be this beautiful fantasy land.
It sure is bright.
Yeah, it's right through here. I'm sure of it. We've almost reached Elysium. What is this place?
No.
That's not at all what it is. This deserted wasteland that looks eerily similar to our own world. This is just a space colony. I was not expecting them to do another Xenoblade here with the space stuff, but this is just a great connection. This is 1 out of 3 times I almost cried during this game. When I was just roaming around where that tree was and those dreamlike places of Elysium where Pyre and Rex were. Well, the feeling just felt surreal. The music that plays here also adds to the sorrowful atmosphere. I also love the whole tying in clause from 1, and he's the architect, just a normal guy, who makes mistakes. Xenoblade 2 goes the complete opposite direction of its predecessor, thanking them for giving them life, which is pretty unique for a JRPG. Although that isn't to say that Xenoblade 1's ending is worse, because it's just about the same, and I love both endings. Quality over quantity. This will be a quick one because I really enjoy the shorter amount of side quests in this game. Xenoblade 1 has good side quests, it's just that a lot of that grand 400 something side quest was fetch quests. Here 2 only has 125, which is a lot because the side quests here are usually like 20 minutes each. And you get into the blade quests, which can range from, on the average, like 30 to 40 minutes to Ursula. These are really good quests, and I've always preferred when games have smaller, more understandable goals and quests to do, rather than copy-paste boring junk in these soulless AAA games. It's okay, I can say Ubisoft. Localization. The voice acting here is top-notch like it was. Nothing has changed. I don't like it as much as 1, and I feel that it has to do with the voice direction rather than the acting. The voice actors here are good, they can be good, when given enough to go off. Rex is phenomenal in down-to-earth moments, talking with the rest of the cast, but in Chapter 1, the scream feels out of place, and it's hard not to mention this scream, which is just so hard to be on top, or even on the same caliber with. Nia is top tier, Morag as well. I also wanted to talk about this one localization change that is pure genius. In Japan, this scene Nia calls Zeke a turtlehead, which makes no sense in English because that is slang in Japan, not English. Instead, Nia calls him a one-eyed monster, which if you don't know, she's calling him a— Yeah! This works in both languages. It's a penis joke utilizing both aspects of Zeke. Japan using turtles and turtles, and English using Zeke, a eye patch. I know this is just a one-line penis joke, but it's still genius in my books. But sometimes the localization can be iffy, like Jin at the end of chapter 6 says,
Your own blade has been wounded so deeply, and all you can think of is yourself.
But this doesn't make any sense. I mean, have you seen this man? He can't go 10 minutes without calling out to Pyra. But Jin's voice actor saves this line. He makes it sound so cool and cold. And it just goes to show how good this dub can be. Poppiswap and Tiger. Let me start this off. I usually don't like this stuff, and to be honest, I don't really use this till I get Poppy Cutie Pie. Like gummy ships and Kingdom Hearts, I don't like fooling with that stuff. I just want the presets. But this was really fun making Poppy. You can really make Poppy whatever you want. Any element, more evasion base, more tanky, and all kinds of stuff. But I wish there was another way to get crystals besides Tiger. Tiger is alright, but it gets old after a while. It's the like 8-bit game that Tor's grandpa made or something, which brings into question why doesn't he just make a game and use those infinite amounts of crystals to make Poppy like the ultimate blade. Tiger and Poppiswap did receive some free additions like the easy mode, which is not cheap. It makes Tiger actually playable. Taking damage from bumping into walls is just cheap. You can turn any unwanted part into crystals to spin on parts you actually want. So I have to commend the developers there. Music. It's a Xenoblade game, of course I'm gonna love the music. So it's kind of hard to really talk about music other than, oh, I just like this. I really love that drum ting there. So instead, I'm gonna play some snippets of my favorites. Bad. Vague tutorials. Probably the worst thing in this game. Well, second worst. But this one is the most well known and a huge roadblock into getting into this game. I'm sure everyone, including die-hard fans, can agree this is a fundamentally stupid tutorial system. It's not even bad in the explaining, it's just that this is a long game that can take you over 100 hours. It has a lot more to memorize in its mechanics. The problem is you can't revisit any of the tutorials after you see them. Why? Why are you going for a blink and you'll miss it thing? Even with all the great free stuff they added, some of this which would probably be harder than implementing a tutorial button in the menus, they still haven't fixed it? But again, you can look up guides and stuff on YouTube like Chugga Conroy to get those tutorials explained and even more stuff. But the problem here is you shouldn't, and I don't blame anyone for dropping this game due to the lack of cohesive tutorials. Menu managing, it sucks. It's a convoluted mess to get where you want. Now I can't speak about the Wii version of the previous game, but its menus were really intuitive for a 3DS port. Of course, part of it being the map was on the bottom screen. Now I'm going to show you this unused menu design. Wow! That looks good. Using the trigger buttons to get to the next category, and when you get to that category it's already shown? But in the final game we get this thing? Which if you want to get to what actually matters in this game, you're gonna spend a lot of time pressing the A button. Like let's say I want to get to my aux cores on my blade. I have to press the pause button to get to the menu, go over to the characters, go to my blade that I want, then hit the aux core option, then equip the aux core. That is just a jumble of button presses. And it's made even worse because this is an RPG, so it's gonna be long and you're gonna want to go in this menus a lot. To save, to change the time and get different equipment, to get your affinity nodes, unlock Merc groups and engaging blades, which we'll talk about. Also, I found myself getting so mad about the button placement, often getting to the options instead of the menu. The X button is just the stupidest one in my opinion. It brings you to the skip travel thing. It just infuriated me looking at this all the time because I wanted to get to the menu instead. Again, this problem could have easily been fixed if they just stuck with what they had. Merc groups and field skills. I think in theory these are great, at least Merc groups. Field skills could have been used way better. These are just so annoying. I hate swapping in and out of blades to do this thing. Like honestly, I just wish it looked at the blades in your whole collection, not in the party. Merc groups are good, but they just take forever. My god, some of these legit take 2 hours, and you have to keep the game on for the time to count, and not put the Switch in sleep mode or exit out, which is just stupid. Some of the quests are locked behind these things, which can range from 40 minutes to Ursula. I put this joke in the script 2 times because I'm so unoriginal and I just noticed this. So I just wanted to point out how funny that is.
I'm going all in.
Time to get serious.
Double spinning egg.
Stay on your toes.
Anchor shot.
Go get spinning. Healing halo.
Over sexualization. One of the things I liked about Xenoblade Chronicles 1 was the designs. They looked like actual humans mixed with some fictional anime aesthetics. You could see a Shulk, Ryan, Dunban, and Fiora, Charla in real life. Melia is maybe dressing up as a Halloween costume, and Riki might be just a deformed, mutated dog. The designs in Xenoblade 2... Oh, okay, what happened? Well, there is an interesting video on this that you can check out. Basically, Xenoblade 1 didn't have an art style, all they had was the models, so the designers just traced over them to form this pseudo art style. So it makes sense that they wanted art style this time. Unfortunately, the main characters' designs are this. It's hard to take some scenes with Pyra and Mithra seriously because, I mean, just look at them. And I don't usually mind this stuff, I'd probably even defend it if it was just Pyra and Mithra. Oh, here's the blade designs. And of course there's Dahlia, which is one of the worst designs I've ever seen. Again, I usually don't have a problem with this. Artists should be able to have that freedom, but this is really over the top for a game that relatively takes a lot of itself seriously at times. But one thing that I do like about these designs is there's a bunch of different artists here making the blades and such. You can even view in the Blade album who made the design. And I also love Torna's designs. I remember seeing Jin's transformation and really thinking, hey, this reminds me of Riku from Kingdom Hearts. Looking at their portraits, yeah, that's Tetsuya and Nomura. No wonder I like them. But even still with their models, I feel they are the closest to the original Xenoblade ones. Tropes. Again. On the other side of the anime tropes is just the generic kind. The ones not used to foreshadow important plot events. Things like Poppy's introduction, Rex sleeping with Mithra, and the hot spring scene. I know it was mentioned in the good, and while I think it's neat to do it there was so many other ways to do it, or not at all, because there are just other instances of foreshadowing it. It's hard not to think this game is cheesy at times when you put both of this together. It feels like a tonal whiplash. I don't mind the anime aesthetic, it's like a Wind Waker, but it could have been done better if we got definitive edition type designs, or 3s. I would take it more seriously during the low points and the even bigger moments. Long cutscenes. This feels pretty weird to me because I felt that 1 had a good cutscene to gameplay ratio. I feel like I'm watching an anime episode at times playing Xenoblade 2. Fun fact, I saw this post that said that, counting the main cutscenes, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is longer than the runtimes of the prequel and OG trilogies of Star Wars combined. Star Wars being around 13 hours and 26 minutes, and Xenoblade 2 being 13 hours and 54 minutes. But I think the most arduous point has to be the finale, in which it just feels like I'm watching a movie. It was literally like cutscene, fight enemies, cutscene, boss fight, cutscene, 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 final boss, 20-minute long cutscene. Each of these cutscenes at the end are like a minimum 5 minutes long, and some can take like 15 minutes to get through, which is basically the runtime of an episode of a show. But thank the architect for the skip button.
Probably Tennessee that says fool me once. Shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
There's an abundance of fake out deaths for some ungodly reason. I'm just going to talk about the standout ones, I'm sure there's more. First is technically Rex, who dies in the first chapter, kind of similar to another game I know.
Well, this is as far as it goes.
But comes back to life because sex sells. This is frankly stupid, but I'll overlook it because plot needs to happen. Gramps is a good subversion of this trope, and it's actually clever. This is a contentious point. Gramps is the mentor character that trained and raised Rex, and usually go about exposition. And what do they usually do? Die. And what does Gramps do? Die. Well, kind of. He comes back to life as this larval form. A very small rodent mascot looking character. This is good because 1, the mentor doesn't die, and we get to have him the entire game. 2, it makes sense lore-wise and naturally enriches the lore because Titans are blades, and it's a cycle of immortality and forgetting everything, and they produce core crystals, and that's actually super neat, but also really sad and depressing. Van Ham comes and ruins this because he is another mentor-type character who joins your party. Temporarily. And actually kicks the bucket. Granted, I was sad because the music was emotional, but you literally just did this 2 chapters ago. And then they have the fucking audacity to do it again for Niall, who, surprise, dies to foreshadow Nia's powers. We've already seen this. And there's the final cutscene. We just spent 20 minutes going on about how Pyra and Mithra were going to die and was sad. Poppy had me almost crying for their promise. And then they just back to life like nothing happened and say on the title screen to fight you. Maps. In Xenoblade 1, there was this intuitive layer system to their maps that has since been missing in 2. It worked by showing you only what was there on whichever floor layer you were relative to the map, getting rid of the useless clutter and making things less confusing. Now I'm sure this is very tricky to design, and to be honest, it doesn't ruin anything, but it is way more confusing to look at. I remember not really checking my map that much in 1, but I had this thing whipped out a lot in 2, because you have places like Argentum, Torograph, this factory. Lack of outfits. Another quick one. In the first game, you could swap out your gear and equipment to change the outfit of your character. You could have Shulk be the star of Baywatch, and in Xenoblade 2, we just have Rex with no option to switch out his Cyclops diver from the SpongeBob movie. I'm pretty sure there is outfits, but that's locked behind DLC, and paid to be exact. I'm fine with the blades not being able to, but come on man, you could have at least gave us options. And the final bad point is my favorite book, The Crucible. The Spirit Crucible. Elpys. The Spirit Crucible Elpys. My least favorite part of this game is this stupid dungeon. Now this place on an exploration level is pretty tame and your normal dungeon, so why do I hate it? These stupid, arbitrary gimmicks that only apply to this one dungeon. 1. This entire chapter has gotten rid of Pyra and Mithra, probably your most powerful blades, which in of itself is not a bad thing. If it was only this, it'd be fine, and you know, more rock love. No, it doesn't end there. You see, there's some explanation why, but there's like ether or something draining or something. You can't use tier 2, 3, or 4 special, except Tor and Poppy, because Poppy is artificial and therefore bypasses that roadblock. So all your main damage dealing is taken away, max affinity can't be achieved, so you don't get those bonuses that really help. Oh, maybe I'll just rely on healing a lot. Nope, your healing is nerfed, so the enemies in battles take forever. I think they purposely picked some enemies with higher HP. I'm not sure if I can back this up or it's all just the nerfs you receive, but all the fights feel like taking on a unique monster. Speaking of unique monsters, this urchin here is on the main path that you need to go, and will aggro on you, making your life in utter pain as you try to figure out how to sneakily get past him. This is a time where I suggest running from the fights because it's not worth it. There's also poison that hurts you as you step in it, and I heard people had a really tough time with this boss fight in the last area. But for me, I finished this guy off in like 30 seconds, and I genuinely have no idea how the gimmick works. Actual brain dead dungeon, but the payoff to when you get Pyra and Mithra back, it feels so amazing. It's like taking your shoes and socks off after a long day. And that is my opinion of Xenoblade 2. I think it is a game worth playing, but it doesn't quite reach the level of 1. Although that isn't to say that it doesn't have aspects that I enjoyed more than the first. I thought the characters were more consistent, but no single character was better than the grades of Xenoblade 1. But it has a lot that is just worse or a downgrade of what was established. Like, as much as I like the combat here, I prefer 1's. The story is great, but it has a couple of low points like chapter 4 through 5. Overall though, it is a fun game. But with that, I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did. And if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing. And for my rating of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I'm gonna give it a high B tier. Bye!